Hi and welcome to Year 10 Lesson 1 of the Summer 2 term. Today's lesson is going to be based around instruments, music theory and some solo performance practice. Please make sure you have the workbook or the work page ready with you for this lesson. We are going to be looking today at instruments theory and practice, as I said before, and I'd like you to be listening and analysing to a new genre of music. Identify the instrument sounds and improve knowledge of your music theory, and be practicing for a solo performance. Now, in today's listening diary, this is your do now, so please find activity 1.1. We are going to be listening to Harder, Better, Faster by Daft Punk. Now, I'd like you to open this in a separate tab so you don't lose this video. What I've done here is I would like you to comment, please, on the tempo, the structure, the dynamics, the instrumentation, and the pitch. Now, I've given you some ideas onto this page as to kind of the keywords that you could be using. Obviously, some of these will make a lot of sense to some of you, and some of them will not make too much sense at all. Now, just looking at tempo, just to remind you that andante means a walking pace and allegro means fast. Structure, if we're looking at that, binary means it's in two sections, so A, B, and ternary means it's in three sections, okay, with that A repeated at the end, so A, B, A, and verse chorus obviously uses all of those keywords, so introduction, outro, chorus, verse, bridge. You could also have a middle eight in there, so it's up to you as to which one you feel this is. Dynamics, forte obviously is our Italian term for loud, piano, Italian term for quiet, crescendo, obviously just a reminder that that means gradually getting louder, mezzo forte is medium loud, diminuendo is obviously gradually getting quieter. Now, just some ideas on instrumentation here. I'm very aware that actually there are a lot more instruments in this piece than just some of the ideas I put there, and some of those might not be in there either. The anything else page that is on there is anything that you think is worthwhile noting. So I would now like you to pause the video and write down your ideas after listening to the piece Harder, Better, Faster by Daft Punk, which is your electro piece. Pause now. Okay, on to our next task. I'd like you to identify the instrument sound for the examples written below. You will need your activity workbook, and you'll need to find task 1.2. Each one will be played 2 times, and I'd just like to identify what instrument it is that you can hear. If you can go that step further and write what instrument family you think that comes from, that is absolutely brilliant. Bonus marks to you. Here's sound 1 for the first. And here's sound 1 for the second time. Okay, moving on to sound 2. Here's sound 2 for the first time. And sound 2 for the second time. Okay, sound 3 for the first time. Nice and jolly, that one. Sound 3 again for the second time. Sound 4 for the first time. Why not make it nice and long, eh? That's sound 4 for the second time. And finally, here's sound 5 for the first time. And sound 5 for the second time. Okay, and if you could really quickly mark these for me, that'd be absolutely brilliant. So sound 1, you have the harp, which falls under the string family. Sound 2, you have a synthesizer. Now, it might be linked back to the Do Now, this one. You might have heard of synthesizer before in today's lesson, and this falls under the percussion family. Sound 3 is the trumpet. Okay, found in the brass family. Sound 4 is the piano, found in the percussion family as well. And finally, number 5, sound 5 is timpani, which is also a big percussion instrument. If you want to find out any more about those instruments or know what they look like, I would advise you now to just pause the video and quickly have a look, but there is no compulsion to do that. Okay, moving on to activity 1.3. Now, those of you who I've already taught this year will know that I use this website quite a lot. Musictheory.net is extremely useful to help you out and to make you feel much more confident when it comes to reading scores, which we are going to be doing a lot more of throughout this topic this half term, but also throughout your GCSE. So you need to make sure that you can feel confident, and I would like you to pick one of these tasks. Now, the next part of the video, you can skip through whichever one you're not doing. Okay, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about reading notes of the treble clef, identifying key signatures, and identifying intervals and how to do that. Feel free to skip through to whichever one of these tasks you are doing. You are only expected to do one. Okay, so if you've picked to read notes of the treble clef, you will notice that actually it's really quite simple to do. This thing here is called our treble clef. It's also called our G clef. Now the reason for that is because this line here, where it starts, okay, is actually where our note G sits, and therefore it is classed as our G clef. That is something that I will always say to you is a really good tip. Always come back to the fact that that is your G note. Now, how I've always learnt where the lines, okay, notes and the lines are, I've learnt every good boy deserves football, or every good boy drives fast, or every girl buys dinosaurs forever. Lots of different anagrams that you can use there, and making sure that ultimately you are finding something that works for you. Now, when it comes to the notes in the spaces, so if you see it's sitting between the two lines here, okay, it doesn't have a line going through it like these ones here, okay, it's sitting between the two. Now I would just remind you, and I would just get you to learn this, okay, so if it's F, it's a first space, A, second space, C, third space, E, fourth space. So if I was on musictheory.net and I was using the identifying of notes, I would firstly ask myself the first couple of things. Okay, is it a line or a space? If I know that it's a line, I would go, okay, is it a first, second, third, fourth, or fifth? Okay, is it E, G, B, D, F? Is it my every good boy deserves football? Or is it a space? Is it a first, second, third, or fourth? So therefore, is it F, A, C, or E? Now I'd like to pause the video at this point and have a go, okay, trying to identify as many notes of the treble clef as you can. You can pause this video and come back to it. Okay, you've picked option 2, you decided to look at key signature identification. Now, key signatures are they just tell us what tonality a piece is in. Now you will see here on this diagram, we have our major keys and we also have our minor keys. Okay, apologies for my drawing there. You will see here that ultimately, okay, you are adding a sharp each time if you go this way round, or you are adding a flat each time if you go this way round. Now, how you get there is it's really quite simple. You manage to look through and you go, okay, so C major has no sharps or flats. I know that it's always going to be C major if it's a major key. It could, however, be A minor, okay, if it sounds like it's a minor key, but it still has no sharps or flats in the key signature. If I am looking at one sharp in my key signature, I know that it is going to be G. Now, the reason for this is a couple of ways you can learn it. You can either learn it that it's 7 semitones, okay, from C to G. Okay, if you were to look at a piano, it is 7 semitones, not including the C. So you get your C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G. That takes us to our 7. Okay, so you could do it that way. The other way to do it is you can see that the sharp in this key signature is an F sharp, and you could just go a semitone above that to know and find out that that is therefore G. Looking at our next one, you could go 7 semitones again. Okay, you could go from G, not including the G, obviously, remember, you could go 7 semitones up. So you'd have your G sharp, you'd then have A, you would then have A sharp, you would then have B, you would then have C, you would then have C sharp, and then you would have D. That is your 7 semitones, okay? However, another quick way of remembering it is that you look here and you go, boom, that is a C sharp at the end of that, therefore a semitone above that is D. Now you can figure out the rest of that side of the circle of fifths for yourself. Make sure that you do fully understand it. Now, when it comes to the flat side of this diagram, this side here, you could, there's 2 ways of learning this. It's either 5 semitones, okay, between them. So if I was to go C to F, okay, remember I don't count the first one. So I'd have D flat, I would then have D, I would have E flat, I would have E, and then I would get myself to F. So that is 5 semitones, okay, 5 semitones that way round. I would also be honest with you and say F is the only one you need to learn, truly, because what you could do when you get to this next one, if you decide that you don't want to go through and you don't want to do your 5 semitones, you could cover up the end flat and just read what note this one is, and that would tell you that it's B flat major. Now, for the purposes of today's lesson, if you feel really confident with the major keys, okay, all I'm going to tell you now to give you a little bit of a device as to how to find a minor key is just know that it is 3 semitones down, okay, and therefore work that out from there. Okay, hi, you've decided to go for interval identification. Now, just before I move on to this point, just to let you know that an interval is the distance between 2 written notes. So I am going to be doing a little bit of drawing here, and I am just going to let you know that for the purposes of today's lesson, I am not going to deal with the augmented second. I am not going to deal with the diminished fifth. I am not also going to deal with the augmented fifth and the augmented sixth. Now, there's a reason for that. Personally, you don't actually need them for your GCSE. The reason for that is because ultimately you need to know the distance between these, and I'm going to give you a really quick way of learning it. Now, your perfect unison has no semitones between them, okay? It's really quite simple to learn. Perfect unison is literally me playing the same note, so it'd be la, la, okay, so that is your perfect unison. Now, a minor second is 1 semitone different, okay, you can see this from the diagram here, so it'd be C to D flat or C to C sharp. Major second is 2 semitones away, okay, so C to D, remember it's going to the natural, make sure that you're reading the natural sign there. Minor third, okay, is 3 steps away, a major third is 4, perfect fifth is 5, an augmented fourth is 6. Okay, then going to my perfect fifth, you get 7 semitones there. From minor sixth is 8, major sixth is 9, minor seventh is 10, major seventh is 11, and your perfect octave is 12 semitones. Now, the reason I'm talking in semitones is it makes this so much easier. Okay, so if you were to start, everything may start on a different written note, but for this purposes of this example, I am going to go through and I'm going to show to you that 0 is going to be C at any one point. Okay, so if I was to say that I was going to go from C to E, okay, I would count through the semitones in my brain, not including the first one. So C to C obviously is nothing. C to C sharp is 1. C to D is 2 semitones. C to E flat would be 3, and then C to E would be 4. Always count the distance between these two notes, starting at the lower one. Now pause the video here and go and have a try for yourself. Okay, final part of today's lesson is I would like you to be writing 3 SMART targets for your lesson. Now, these SMART targets are obviously, they have to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. The reason I want you to do this is I do not want the time to be wasted. Okay, so an example there is to practice the sonority in my left hand of my piano piece in just 15 minutes to make sure that there are no hesitations. To make sure that I can do this, I will record my first and my final attempts to see my progress. This is now the end of today's lesson video. I'd like to end the video now and continue with the rest of the lesson. You should have about 20 minutes for your performance practice and then complete activity 1.5. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe on the videos, okay, so you can see when the next ones come up. Hope you're all well. Keep yourself safe. Bye.